Hi, I'm Angie,
And I'm Julian.
and we're here today to talk to you about some of the thematics for Riftwalker. Riftwalker is based in the world of Storm Hollow, which we created for Storm Hollow, a storyboard game. And we wanted to show you some of the cards in Riftwalker and how they're based off of the stories that we created for Storm Hollow and how the mechanics for Riftwalker sort of evolved from some of those stories and show you some of our favorite tidbits there. So one of my favorite sets of cards here are based off of a couple of rifts. There's the Starfall Deeps, which is a rift where stars fall into the ocean, and as they fall, they create islands. So there's these meteor showers, and new islands are formed every time a star falls, and they're kind of little pieces of worlds that fall into the world of Storm Hollow. That's the story there. And each one is sort of like a little mini rift. A rift in Storm Hollow is a piece of another world that's sort of been transported into it. And in the Starfall Deeps, there's little mini rifts, and we have these stories that there are constantly people setting out to explore the new islands as they show up, and that's a big pastime for the exploring people of Land's End and whatnot. And so we made one of the rift cards for Riftwalker with the rift shift of Falling Island that has the power of place the top card of the rift deck into your explored isles area. So the water rifts have this general theme of going wide and putting lots of rifts into play. So for this one, when you play it, you take any rift from the top of the card, you take the top rift of the deck and you put it into play, and you sort of get a new rift power. And that to us was sort of symbolizing that idea of a piece of a rift falling into your world. So I liked how that matched the story and the theme of the thing that we created for Storm Hollow. And it makes for a fun building out your board and giving you a new set of tools and strategies. And so that's one of my favorites. And another one that I really liked is based on the Everblaze. The Everblaze is a place that we wrote a lot of stories about. In the Poppins Guide to Storm Hollow here, we have a big thing for each of the rifts, and here you can see. But it talks about how the Everblaze is a fiery furnace that burns away more than the land, but over time it burns away the memories of people until they don't remember anything of who they were before. And it kind of goes into these various stories about how people who have spent time in the Everblaze have forgotten who they were. And that's something that's just been a lot of fun for Julian and I to write. We created some characters who, like this guy right here, he's the King of Fire and his steed, and he wanders around the Everblaze on top of his fiery phoenix, that confronting strangers and warning them away from the danger and telling them that, you know, if they stay here long that they're going to lose their memories as well because he can't remember who he is. And we've got a guy at the forge who will trade items for memories. And so it's just a fun place where we played a lot with that idea of fire burning away memories. So when we were working on Riftwalker, we decided it would be fun to make make a card that represented that idea of burning away memories. Fire was our flashy high risk, high reward strategy. So we made a card that's called Burn Memory. And this card says, you may burn any number of your explored rifts by discarding them and placing them face down underneath this card. You must burn at least one. And then they're worth bonus points at the end of the game. So the idea is you take your rifts from play, places that you've explored, and you take them and you place them face down. So if I put this into play and I have 4 rifts in play, I can take 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them and place them face down underneath this. And it symbolizes that idea of forgetting the places that I've explored as a Riftwalker. Right. So if I have these here, I could take 3 of them and burn them away. And then when I shift it up again, I could take another one and place it under there. And then when I shift it again, I could place this last one under there. And then when I score it, depending on how many times it's been shifted, they're worth 1 or 2 extra points. So it's one that could give you a high amount of points if you've gotten a lot of rifts under it. Because if it gives you 2 points per card, and if you've gotten 5, 6, 7 rifts, you could get more bonus points than a lot of them in the game. But it's a big risk because if you don't get them scored, then you've given up a lot of your toolbox, a lot of your useful powers, and then accomplish nothing for it. So I really like that idea of just burning away your memories and how it's represented in this game, how flavorful that is. And I like these cards in particular, the way they play together, because the Falling Island, when you play it, every time you play it or shift it, it brings a new explored rift into play for free. So you play this, you You bring a rift into play, you shift it, you bring another one in, you shift it again, you bring another one in, and now I've explored these rifts without having to take my extra turns to do it. And then I play Burn Memory, and I can burn away the memories of these places and start building up my bonus points. So they make a good fun combo too.
Yeah, they definitely work well together.
Yeah, so there's some of my favorite rifts story-wise, and then also some fun ones that I like to play with. So those are some of my my favorite thematic and story rifts for Storm Hollow. What are yours?
So some of the riffs, some of the stories from our world really inspired the mechanics, as you can see there. Some of them presented some interesting design challenges. So two of them that I sort of liked the solutions we came up to were the Shadowlands and the Venture cards. The Shadowlands was a difficult one because this is a game all about playing with the magical elements, but we want to have it be a Riftwalker game. It's exploring all the rifts. Shadowlands is one of the rifts, but it's a place where no magic exists. There's no magic in the Shadowlands. It's the evil, dark place where few would want to wander. And so in a game that's all about the elements, how do we represent that? Well, the fun solution we came up with is its power is called Drain Magic. So when you bring it into play, you pick a row on the element grid and wipe out all the elements there and get to replace them. And then it doesn't actually use any elements to perform its functions, to shift along. You just skip the rift step or the element step. You skip the element step to shift it along, and you skip the burst step, to then burst it and score it for points. So it's entirely self-reliant there. So I like how we came up with that solution. And then Venture, this other one, presents a bit of a problem because it's our big city filled with all kinds of people, and in the world of Storm Hollow, so much about Venture that we even wrote a Poppin's Guide to Venture with all this information over it. And you can see that from the map there that picking one element for it just doesn't make a lot of sense because there's the Wood Ward over here where there's a lot of life magic going on. The Crystal Cade has all kinds of storm elements going on there, lots of invention. And one of the big themes of the Venture is that they're builders. There's lots of pages in here about all the different kinds of things they build, but here's one from the Crystal Cade about inventing the future, and you can see one of the big engineers of Storm Hollow and Venturous, his name is Izzy. So what to do then with this one that doesn't have one clear element to tie to it? And so our solution was there are 3 of these project cards in the game. This one's Project Volcanus. I think there's Project Stormbinder and Project Green Goo is the other one. And they are each tied to 2 elements. And so across the 3 projects, you have all of the elements represented. And each of them being a project that you're building towards. So Project Volcanus here is Earth and Fire, and it's both of these elements, and it shifts along. And when it bursts, it gets to burst another rift of those same elements. And so thematically, it's sort of meant to represent that you are building up the project of whatever that other rift card is that you're going to burst. That's sort of the venture project that's going on as a way to activate and score that other rift. So I was pretty happy with just the ways that we were able to incorporate the specific theme and story of those rifts into a game that was about all these magical elements. The one that was no elements and the one that was sort of all of them still had a nice opportunity to shine in the game and have mechanics that are fun but really fit the stories from Storm Hollow about those places. So.
Yeah, our focus with Riftwalker really was to make a tight, compact strategy card game that was focused on the strategy, that played well, that didn't require you to understand or know the backstory of Storm Hollow, and that was independent of that, and that really worked well. But because we were so fond of the stories and stuff that we did, we really wanted to also incorporate that theme and tie it in as much as possible. And working from that top-down perspective of having these great stories really helped us come up with powers and ideas that we wouldn't have come up with otherwise. It helped us differentiate the elements in interesting ways, and helped us create fun powers and look for different sources of inspiration. And do things that I think made for really unique gameplay and really interesting interactions.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with Storm Hollow, I think that the process we went through and trying to tie those thematics in there does enhance the gameplay, enhances the variety of powers that we came up with. And if you are familiar with Storm Hollow in the world, I think it gives you sort of a fun extra layer to discover as you're looking over the cards. You'll notice bits of the world and how they came through in an entirely new way in this strategy card game representation of them.
So thanks for listening. Thanks for checking out our project, and yeah, we really appreciate your support.
Thanks a lot.